All right. Hello everybody. We're all back again to do this last case study. But for this time, we'll be doing a very interesting case study that focuses on the difference in perspectives. Um, this is case study 4.3. But essentially, just because I hadn't read this pretty recently, I'm gonna have to ask Brandon if you could just do a very light, like summary of just the characters and what takes place just so we can all get refreshed because it has been quite a minute before I've read this myself.
Yeah, so basically, write the title, A Difference in Perspectives. You kind of start getting like the idea of, okay, there's going to be two sides to, one's viewing of things. And yeah, like sure enough, getting into the the case study, Mr. Ortiz, the teacher, has a classroom of, assuming here like younger students, and of course like diverse and everything, and you have so you have Nikhil, right, which is um basically the main character in the story, and Jasper along with the other students. So Jasper and the other students point out Nikhil's swastika, right, which of course could be correlated to, with the Nazis. There's the symbol, and Nikhil is explaining why he's wearing it. But before that, of course,
Hmm.
it start, getting hyped up about, hey, why is he wearing this? It's offensive. And rightly so, right? But Nikhil, well, Mr. Ortiz, right, wants to get to the bottom of it and goes to Nikhil, asks him, Nikhil, why are you wearing the swastika, right? And he tells him, well, the students, Jasper and the other students, are ignorant. They're being ignorant because they don't really know, why I'm wearing it, when it's not because it's not because of what they think. It's my grandma gave it to me. This is, before it was used, um,
As a swastika.
as the swastika, as a, what the swastika is known for now. I guess it was a religious symbol back, my grandma's times. She gave it to me before she died, and this is how I use it to remember her. And so that's how, and basically at the end of it, right? Mr. Ortiz asks Nikhil to just put it under his shirt, where he can still have it on, but you know, just kind of hidden, not really make a commotion out of it. Nikhil
Yeah.
disagrees, and Mr. Ortiz is kind of caught up in um kind of in that, that bat well, that swing of like, is this right or is this wrong, and I know, so yeah, I mean, that's, there's other things involved, right? Other students that are backing up Nikhil, saying, hey, what he's saying is true. And so, it's basically they're different perspectives and things. One, of course, one side thinks it's not correct
Yeah,
to
for like religious figures,
exactly.
especially like with the
So
uses of swastikas.
So
Yeah.
that's basically, the summary of the story. And yeah, but it's pretty interesting just because it's true, you might see someone in the classroom just wearing something you don't like, but there's a reason behind something, and I think it's gonna bring up a good point um of kind of like how people should act before, jumping to conclusions,
Yeah.
at the same time um being aware of, everything as far as like symbols before like you speak up. And yeah, I mean, we're gonna get into that, but that's basically, you know just to inform
Hmm.
you a little bit
That's
again.
basically the gist of it, right? All
Yes.
right. Well, with that being said, and with us already having a small summary of the story, I guess it's only right that we talk about step one, which it says here, identify biases and inequities. So, to speak up a little bit more now that Brandon here has given me a little refresh about the story, one of the things I can immediately spot about the inequity, or at least from what I know, is the bias, is that it's the inherent knowledge that there is surrounding the swastika, and um I know that despite the fact that the swastika is more popularized, used for Nazi propaganda, I still feel that I don't know why, but on a personal note, I don't know why, but like I have trouble understanding why like I know it's a horrible symbol, that doesn't exactly show off anything good, but for me personally, it's hard for me to understand why a student like, or at least because I haven't gone through it myself, or I've never seen somebody experience something like that. But um, like, how should it? I don't know. Like, I'm trying to come up with a way to say how I would feel if I saw somebody wearing a swastika. Like, I personally wouldn't feel like attacked, because maybe because of my culture, my ethnicity, like I wouldn't feel attacked. But like I don't know, like there's also different variables that you have to take account, especially when looking into something like this, like the meaning of swastikas, or how the symbol was used before, the culture behind it, what exactly it signifies. So it's really hard to come up with a good bias and inequity because there's many various perspectives. There's lots of perspectives that could say something either for it or against it. But do you guys have anything to add with my commentary that
I
could probably
mean,
point it out?
I'm just not sure really because I think the inequality, I although some may disagree, at the end of the day, I think um if how how Nikhil said, hey, other students are wearing their religious symbols, why can I?
Hmm.
And I think in this case I do agree with Nikhil, because
Mm-hmm.
I think the injustice for him would be that he's not able to kind of have the same freedom, in a sense, although there is a lot of controversy and also a lot of history behind that symbol. I think that that's something for the administrators to kind of, it may be something small, but like at the end of the story, it says, we need to figure this out. Like Mr. Ortiz needed to figure it out before students found out about the symbol and stuff. So I think they need to take care of it on their part because there's no policy as far as, hiding, these sort of like religious symbols for those
Yeah.
students offending other kids.
Yeah.
Then the killer shouldn't feel any type of, kind of, I guess like pressure for wearing it.
Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned that, like about the policies about that, because you would think like an administration or schools would have a policy towards wearing, like for example, wearing a Christian necklace, or a Christian, or like like or like a Jewish Star David or something like that, right? So I also like how you were saying. I also think it depends a lot on the specific what's called administration policies that are present in the school. But if we are to say that there is no policies against it, I would say that there should be no problem. And the inequality here is how other students view that because of their lack of knowledge, which maybe the teacher should take the opportunity to inform the students about the culture behind the Nazi symbol before it was, inherited as a Nazi symbol. So maybe the teacher should take it as an opportunity to display how this is an inequality, and how if the other students keep on insinuating, that it's a horrible symbol, then it's always going to stay as a horrible symbol. But um, that's just my theory. Unless you guys have something else to say, we can move on to step number two, which I think it holds a lot more content than step number one, because I know it's a little bit hard to do step number one without talking about the perspective.
Well, I was gonna ask, has anyone ever had that sort of experience? Like I know some schools do have policies like, hey, if you're gonna wear a religious symbol, you can wear
Hmm.
it, just make sure it's not seen. I know,
Yeah. Mm-mm.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if anyone's
Yeah,
kind of felt some way, or if they've had that policy, like how they felt. If they didn't, was that okay? Were you fine with that? Or
Yeah, no, that's like I've always like I'm Christian, so I always like wear a cross and stuff too. And like no, that's never happened. But like in this story, like I feel like the story is like all about like biases and stuff, like with like, if somebody's not of that religion or that, like that's why they feel uncomfortable. But I don't think at all
hmm,
that it's like a justified reason to tell somebody to not wear something. I think, yeah, like if somebody told me like, oh, that like they weren't Christian, so like I shouldn't be wearing a cross, like I would feel like that would be like livid if somebody told me not to wear something.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, like that, like for him, like especially because like it's not like he's offending anybody by like it's not like he's explaining like yeah, like I wear this because of like the Nazis and the all that. Like he's
uh
explained himself that that's not at all the reason. So there shouldn't be any issue with him wearing that if that's not at all the reason that he's wearing it.
exactly. Yeah, and I agree with you a lot with that, because I mean, like, I mean, I don't want to say anything bad, but it's not like Christianity hasn't always been good. There's definitely some controversy about Christianity. There's controversy about all kinds of religions. But
Mhm.
I like exactly how you're saying. It would be unfair for this particular student to be disclosed and say, hey, you can't be wearing that anymore, because this particular symbol that you're wearing, it's not favorable. I mean, but other students are wearing other
Yeah.
religious stuff. So, and
That,
at least in this case, it would be an inequality.
that's why I think it should definitely be like I think it just should be respected. I think that's why the inequality is going towards Nikhil. Uh,
Hmm.
like I have had those policies like in middle school or even when I was like in boot camp, it was treated as something okay, like that's a personal belonging. That's something that, that's like preference and stuff like that, and we're not gonna mess with
Yeah.
um, and also like in middle school is like, yeah, put it under your shirt. I don't want to see that. And it's like, whoa, like what did I do? You know what I mean? Like this is just my
Yeah.
beef. And so I've been on both sides of the the conversation, but I
Mm.
think if the conversation goes beyond inside the classroom, I think then that's up to the administrators to make the policy. And even then, I think if the policy was made of, a no, just nobody bring anything, or if you put it under your shirt, I think as Nikhil, I'd feel like, wow, this is because of me. Like that's kind of messed up,
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's just something that yeah, I think should be left alone.
Mhm.
It should be respected rather than to be like how
Yeah.
Exactly.
you're saying. All
Okay. I
right.
think that was good. Yeah, I think we're able
Hmm.
to. Me and Eva, I think are good with step one. So I think we're good to move on to step two. So
All
So
right.
take the various perspectives.
yeah, and I think for taking stock of various perspectives, um of course there's Nikhil's perspective, and the other students. I know Jasper, there's also I think Megan or Madeline and the
Um,
teachers, really it doesn't involve any parents or anything, but I think those perspectives are the ones that we need to see because um yeah, people are gonna feel different, but the ones being there, how do you guys think those perspectives differ from each other? Or maybe, just kind of give me some insight on what you think they might have felt or, what's kind of going on through their mind at that moment.
Well,
I
yeah. Oh, you can talk first, Cassie. I'm sorry.
I feel like I mean because like yeah we don't know where exactly like this is like taking place, so like there might be students who maybe are Jewish and maybe like because of that that's what kind of led to like the maybe uncomfortableness of it, or like the the reason to kind of say like oh like you shouldn't be wearing that, which like
Yeah.
it makes sense at first, but once Nick like explained the reason behind it, I think that's when like it should have ended and been like okay like that's why and if the student is not at all like mentioning anything that like the reason that he's wearing it is for like the Nazis and all that, like if he's making it very clear why, then I don't think I don't think there should have been a problem, but I think that could
Hmm.
be the perspective of like Jasper, maybe I don't know, maybe he's Jewish and that's what made him feel uncomfortable about it, I would think, and if maybe yeah he has like a different religion and stuff that would make him uncomfortable, but I mean I think
Yeah,
Nicholas.
and I agree with you with that. But like it's exactly how you were saying. Basically, like Jasper could perhaps be a Jewish person and could be feeling, that very strong sentiment towards the swastika, and I totally get that. But at the same time, I feel like Jasper's point of view in this context, like how you were saying here,
Mhm.
is very secured. Because I mean, he also has lack of knowledge about what the swastika meant before it was
Yeah.
used before as a Nazi symbol. So um I guess the perspective in this case, Jasper's perspective would be skewered in and from what I think, because
Mhm.
the only existence that Jasper knows about the Nazi symbol, or about the swastika, is the way that it was used by the Nazis. So so maybe for Jasper's perspectives, you could put a skewered point of view based off his like knowledge, his sole knowledge of like the swastika. And
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, and to build off, I guess, for Nikhil, for Nikhil's point of view, I guess she's not using it to insinuate any kind of hate like how the Nazis used to use it. In Nikhil's point of view, it's just a way for her to remember her grandmother for, maybe the religion that she taught or the beliefs that she had. But
Mhm.
like the way that she uses it is more just to remember her grandma and not really for any kind of religious reason, or at least from what we read here. So,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's what you could put for that's something you could put for Nikhil. But if somebody else wants to take their whack at maybe the teacher perspective, because that we still haven't talked too much about
Yeah.
Ortiz. So yeah.
I think he had more, I think his perspective was more, I would say, in a way respectful too. I just don't think he wanted to lose control of the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I think he gave Nikhil a chance to explain himself. But at the same time, he was trying to reason with Jasper, and what he was saying was, not out of this world. He wasn't making Jasper also feel, like, you're crazy or something. I think he was trying to respect both sides. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, of course, when Nikhil started getting a little bit more frustrated, not really aggressive, just more frustrated with, others kind of ganging up on him. I think that that's when Mr. Ortiz started to actually, I feel like his perspective was like, okay, I need to find a middle ground before this situation gets bigger and I lose control and the trust of my students. I feel like that was kind of my perspective of, well, that was my feeling of his perspective. I don't know if someone else
Mm-hmm.
had a different thought.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Agree. Yeah.
I think you made a pretty solid basis on like the teacher, because like if I was a teacher in this situation, I would also just try to negate that, because I mean, like, you could easily lose a kid in a conversation with like, the controversy behind like the swastika symbol, and oh look, a peer of mine is a Nazi. That's
Yeah. And
that's
it's not like
definitely something you don't want to
it's
get
not like
into.
he can make a policy. I mean, I would like to think, teachers can make policy stuff like that, kind of sort of have some sort of say in their classroom and stuff, but it's not like the teacher's gonna be like, all right, nobody wear no more anything.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because then you run into a bigger
Then
issue.
you're gonna hear parents talk all about that about your
Exactly.
classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's really, has his hands tied, and I think he did I mean, he really couldn't have done it any other way. He could have done it worse, which, I'm glad that, he was professional enough to know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think he
And not
was.
to side one side, I'm sorry. He
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
was
just say
kind of
yeah.
trying to make it work.
But,
Not just
Mhm.
pander too much. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
exactly.
All right. Well, I guess since we already have a good idea on the various perspectives, we can move on to the possible challenges and opportunities, which I think while they are a bit, they're a bit blunt, like they have been in these past few readings, I think that we can still acknowledging these challenges would be pretty important. So, I guess I can start off with the possible challenges. So obviously the possible challenge in this case would be the obvious perspectives about the religion, right? So I guess one of the leading challenges would be informing the students about maybe just this particular place, because I'm not I don't think there's other religions that are or that kind of like belief systems that are that entangled with with horrible policies, like not the Nazi influence, so but just informing students about other religions and their practices and how we need to respect them. I think that itself is a good opportunity to show students to be more, I forgot the word, not just respectful, what's the word, um
Mind
well, yeah,
like
tolerant, right? Tolerant, I
yeah,
think.
like
Toler-
mindful or something.
uh-huh.
Yeah, mindful, be
Tolerance.
more, yeah,
Mhm.
for them to be more mindful, respectful, and more tolerant towards other religions, rather than just shutting them down and say, oh, you're a Nazi because you have it's really important for them to show that. So that would be a good opportunity. Unless somebody else wants to expand on challenge or opportunity, feel free to do so.
Yeah, I think it's since it doesn't have to do with school and as far as like curriculum and
Yeah.
just what you teach in a normal day classroom, I think that's gonna present a challenge because as you don't want to be biased, of course, right? Like I'm Christian. I wouldn't want to, the challenge would be to already know about other religions and
Yeah.
talk about it when it kind of goes against yours at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the challenge would really to be to teach your students about other religions and having to go on and research about them. Although, I think it would be the right thing to do, because again, it helps you, of course, get to know your students better, how they behave, why they act the way they act, or, you know, but I think the challenge would be to just um kind of, not go against your beliefs, but in a sense, teach them about,
Yeah,
kind of what you
I get,
said
yeah,
as an
and I
opportunity.
get, and
That same
yeah.
opportunity can be the challenge as well.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I think it would be pretty hard to kind of get out of your comfort zone and
Exactly.
have to do it. So
And I
that,
completely understand you too, because I mean, I could definitely see how, like, let's say if you go from Christian faith over to Muslim faith or to Buddhism, I can definitely see how, like, maybe teaching that is like it's kind of like out of your range. But I feel that, even just teaching students about the existence of other religions, it not only shows that you respect the religions and therefore makes the other students very respectful, but I also feel that it's very humbling experience, knowing about, maybe why you're in a particular faith and maybe why you like it over other faiths, you on a personal note. But I feel like that in itself is also a challenge for the teacher, because like how, for example, for in your experience, you're a Christian, so it could definitely be hard to approach that. But at the same time, you would be opening the worldviews to other children who might not exactly like being Christian, might want to be some other kind of faith.
yeah.
So I feel like that would still be a challenge both for the teacher and student. So,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
and this kind of like reminds me of last week how we were like, you don't need to force anything or push anything on anybody, but as long as like you respect everybody and you let like,
yeah,
kind of just let everyone be and do their own thing, but you're respectful and you're not, tearing anyone down or like, being obvious that you're like, being passive aggressive about like anything.
hmm
I do want to add on maybe a challenge to not strictly talking about religion.
yeah.
Religion can be pretty tricky, especially if, other students don't understand it. Yes, you want to educate them and, most of them are respectful, but religion is still tricky and,
It's a
um,
slippery
in
slope.
any
Yeah,
situation. So maybe just, speaking to the classroom with other race or cultures, involving more than just religion itself. So I
Exactly.
think
Yeah.
that could be a challenge on just speaking about that.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's not really what teachers go to school for. I mean, unless you're like a, philosophy with philosophy and everything, it's not your field of expertise. Again, from what you were raised with, your beliefs and everything, you can talk about it, but you're not going to do it to students that, you're not trying to, in a sense,
convert them. You're not trying.
convert
You're just
them.
trying to
Yeah,
educate them.
and I think the biggest challenge is
Or
just
single them out.
yeah,
Mhm.
I just think the biggest challenge is gonna be for for the students at Jasper and Nick, no, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Nikhil,
Still.
yeah.
Nikhil to get along after this, just to I think that's gonna be the biggest challenge. Because as adults we understand, and I think I would like to believe that a lot of adults are mature enough to respect, although they can't
hmm
disagree, but I think that because of what they're taught at home, Nikhil and Jasper may not just like each other just based off of that, be able to see like the other qualities, other traits that can make them likable. That might be an opportunity to, from that challenge.
Yeah, like trying to make that connection despite the fact that they're different on a religious level. But like it's like how Eva was saying, it's a very slippery slope for teachers, especially because the second you start to include religion, then that's exactly the same time where the parents start to come in and questioning your text. Like, oh, what are
Mhm.
you teaching my student? Like what exactly are you trying to insinuate here? Even though you might just be trying to educate them, like it's a very slippery slope. And
Yeah.
the last thing you want to be is being caught in the accusation that, oh, you're trying to convert my kid in a religion that I personally do not like.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
yeah, so it's just basically, I think what we're trying to get at is like, just when it's brought up, you acknowledge it and you do nothing more. Because if you do more, then you're obviously bringing more into question about what exactly you're trying to teach the kids. So when it's brought up, you talk about it. When it's not brought up, don't even approach it. I think
Yeah.
that's the best approach.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess with
Yeah.
that being said, oh yeah,
Yeah, I
unless you
think
want
we're
to add
good
something,
to
Nancy?
move on.
Yeah, I was about to say. With that being said, we can move on now to step number 4, which is imagine equitable and just outcomes. I think we already came up with a good outcome for the situation, but unless somebody wants to expand, feel free to do so.
I mean, I think a just outcome would be to it's again, I don't have much training on this, but I would
Yeah.
say you know, a just outcome would be to just you know, make them in a sense talk
Educate the
about
classroom
kind of
in a
well,
sense.
I think it'd
Yeah.
be more to be like an inner like an intermediate, like talk to the students, hey, this is what happened today. Okay, can we like talk to each other? And I think make them I wouldn't say apologize, but sort of, you know, come into an agreement to be able to, you know, respect each other. And you know, if there's any issues to come to me, come to the teacher, you know, and let the teacher handle it. And if it comes, you know, and to just the outcome would be yeah, to just have a more peaceful um and agreement in both sides type, you know, type of outcome if I'm making sense. That
Yeah, no, yeah, it makes sense there. Mhm.
yeah, just have the students come together, you know, and ultimately let them know that the teacher is gonna take care of it, but as long as they get along, you know, and the teacher, and if there's any issues, you can come to me because you know the with whatever they're thinking as far as you know arguing and stuff is not gonna solve it. And
Mhm.
the outcome could be that being having an agreement and maybe an apology or something and just have more of an understanding.
Yeah,
That
I think as
Agreement.
long as the teacher informs the student, about like, about that particular religion and why it's not what they think it is, I think that's a good enough job because you know, I don't think having to apologize, forcing the students to apologize would be like, particularly great in this situation because I mean the student just didn't know. He didn't know any better. So informing them, then if he continues to harass the person despite then there will of course be room for an apology because he's actively going out of his way to say they're a Nazi when they're not. But I think that in this particular case it's just more informing the student about or just a class in general about what's going on, about how the symbol is used in the history, but maybe just a very light coverage about it. And then after that, you can continue on with the class because the last thing you want to do is just to force the students to apologize because of their lack of knowledge. Because then they'll be like, "I got in trouble because of you and your Nazi, emblem." So at least that's in my imagination. That's the last
Yeah,
way you want to go about it.
I agree. I think just like communication, like, yeah, I think if the teacher had like a one-on-one with just the two students that were, basically the ones just like talking about it the most, I think having them explain themselves and like kind of give more of a reasoning, because maybe like Jasper, like maybe he wasn't even Jewish, like maybe he just wanted to like, pick on him and, cause an issue for no reason,
Yeah.
especially
Hmm.
like in school. I think that's very likely to have also happened. So I think if like they're, the teacher just kind of like explains like, okay, like this is why he's wearing it, and like have Nikhil explain himself, and then Jasper too, I think of, I think a genuine like communication would make him feel better than instead of like in the whole class and having everybody attack him and
Yeah, especially that. Hmm.
Mhm.
All
Mhm.
right. Does anybody have any other kind of equitable outcome? I guess. If not, we can definitely move on. But I'd just like to see if anybody likes to say anything. If not, that's fine. We can move on.
Yeah. Or
All
someone can
right.
relate. I was gonna say, or someone can relate to an experience that they've
Yeah.
had.
It's just I don't think here in the RGV it's like at least nobody in my school or my high school, middle school or anything. I don't think I've ever met somebody who's ever been like maybe it's because we all have similar faiths and beliefs here in the
Yeah, I was gonna
valley,
say the
right?
majority is kind of the same here. I think
Yeah,
maybe
like here in the valley, I've never met a Muslim person. I've never met like anybody of a religious faith other than Christian or maybe
Catholic.
what's called
Yeah.
yeah, Christian Catholic, and that's about it. So I've
Mhm.
personally never seen anybody experience it. So I mean, yeah, that's just my 2 cents. So I guess we can move on to step number 5, which is brainstorm immediate term solutions. So whoever wants to talk about that, feel
I
free to
did.
do so.
I did. I did think about
Nice.
something that can be discussed is maybe the teacher having, or I know throughout the story, he stated there wasn't a lot of time for them to discuss in the classroom. So maybe him assigning it as homework, like
Mhm.
research. I mean, not necessarily the religion, maybe just, go home and we'll talk about it tomorrow, maybe as a lesson. And I mean, I just thought that could be like a short term or immediate, send it off for homework for them to do research.
Mhm.
And again, just kind of playing devil's advocate here, but wouldn't that go against kind of what you said as far as you don't want to get into it too much?
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
Just
I
religion itself.
understand
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, maybe they might come back the next day. Oh, you were right, sir. Or like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's true that is, the swastika, is not a symbol of hate. It's a symbol
Yeah.
of, belief and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if the teachers, I mean, the students like on the laptop or the computer, the home computer, and then, you see let's say if I'm a Christian and I'm over here searching up like Judaism or Buddhism or something, right? And then they're like, "Whoa, what are you doing? Go
Or
to
yeah.
class.
Mhm.
Like, why are you teaching this stuff in
Or,
class?"
or even worse, you can have like the student come back home and they're, oh, I'm looking at the Nazi symbol, like,
Yeah. So
yeah.
what would you
Or
say
Not,
then?
maybe like not as fine as homework, maybe be like, okay, like y'all do y'all's own research if you want to like get into that, like let's like leave that out of the classroom, insinuating like if they want to, that's on them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But I completely understand where you're coming from, because like you had the intent of trying to just inform the students, right? But
Yeah,
like at the
I
same
get
time,
that
the last kind of like the last thing you want to, well, not the last thing, but like the one of the things you want to avoid, I think, would be to just like have that open to where like students can go in and then like say go to their parents and then just kind of say like, oh, well, okay, well, what did you learn in class, mijito? And they're gonna, oh, I learned that like so has like a symbol that's like a swastika. So I mean like
Yeah.
I feel like that would be like a pretty bad thing to go back, having the kids but go back home like, oh, Nikhil's wearing a Nazi symbol, that's,
Yeah.
so if anything, just I would say just to educate them maybe in the classroom setting. So, before they go back home and say anything, but like they can say like, oh, Nikhil was wearing this, but we learned that, this doesn't actually mean that they're a straight up Nazi, but they're a different religion.
Honestly, that's why I like college. I'm like, because I think that'd be like a good assignment for if it happened in class, a professor to just
Yeah.
come up on the spot. And again, that's why I'm like, man, I wish teachers, as far as Mr. Ortiz had that,
Mhm.
freedom, because in a sense, you're doing it for students to be a little bit more knowledgeable and sort of, just more like Nikhil said, less ignorant on things like that. Because I think like it would be the right thing to do, but yeah, like it's elementary. I'm assuming it's elementary, so um there's policies, there's code of conduct of how teachers should go about things, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, yeah, I think that immediate
That's probably
solution
that's
would
probably the best
cause
way you can play it, right? Like just being
would
safe
cause like a
about it.
longer term problem. I don't know, and it's not really a right answer. I just think for me it'd be like, okay, you guys are staying out the class. We're gonna talk about this.
All right.
And yeah, so that
All right.
if
Yeah.
you
So
if you
just
guys,
speaking with them too.
yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
but
All right, guys. Just
okay,
want to say we have 1 minute left, so Brandon's gonna start a new meeting right now. Right,
exactly.
Brandon?
Okay. Yeah, I'm
All
gonna
right.
start
Yeah.
the meeting. Don't forget. All
Okay.
right.
All
Bye.
right. Yeah. See you guys.